For many of you guys, the new DJI Pocket 3 will be amazing. But for many others, the DJI Action 4 is all they need. This is all down to what it is that you want to do with these cameras. And even though some areas they slightly overlap, they are still intended at two very different markets. And before we go into the differences, let's touch up on the similarities, because both of these cameras can record 4K up to 60 frames per second, and they both use a D-Log 10-bit color space. So that's really great. And you can go up to 4K 120 frames per second in normal color space. The user experience is very similar in terms of menu layout and browsing. They look almost identical as you browse the different settings, and they both allow you to set up custom modes that some people will find it very helpful. Some of the people will never make use of those. When it comes to the differences, the most obvious one is obviously the design and the aim market, because this is a tank, okay? This is designed as waterproof, weatherproof. This is designed to be used and abused because it's designed as an action camera to be filming action and sports activity. You turn on, press record, and that's it. You're getting really nice images. Whereas the Pocket 3, on the other hand, is a completely different ballgame. And yes, you can sort of use it as an action cam in some situations, but it's designed with a much more calmer and cinematography or videography point of view. That's a big design change that you need to factor in when you're choosing one camera over the other. What is it that you're gonna do, or what is it that you want to do with these cameras? The Action 4 gives you two screens, the rear one that is bigger than the front one, whereas the Pocket 3 gives you a single rotating one. Now, obviously, they serve different purposes for different situations. On the Action 4, once you set up your shot, you are very unlikely to use one of those screens, so you're gonna be operating the camera either from the front or the rear screen. Whereas with the Pocket 3, it's a completely different proposition, because you could be filming facing forward, or you could be filming in a vlogging style, and you have a 2-inch screen, and you can go either vertical or horizontal. But again, this is something that goes right down to the core design and aim market for these two cameras. When it comes to audio, these two cameras are very different, because the Pocket 3 offers you a wireless microphone that you can link up to the Pocket 3 and record the audio automatically, whereas the Action 4, it relies on you adding a microphone via a USB port. They both have built-in microphones, but in my opinion, the Action 4, the moment you start using the camera for what it's intended, which is a sports activity or cycling off-road down a mountain, the audio is gonna be really bad, and you're gonna be relying on a wireless microphone. The difference with the Pocket 3 is that you are most likely to be using the camera static on the ground, doing very small movements, and obviously the sound is gonna be a lot better. But the wireless microphone that comes with the Pocket 3 is fantastic, and it gives you 32-bit audio, which means that it's never gonna clip, and it links automatically to the Pocket 3. The Action 4 probably doesn't need someone talking for a very long time, because that's not the intended purpose for the camera, even though you can do a little bit of vlogging, but the intended purpose is to capture a sports activity or some kind of action going on in front of it. With the Pocket 3, you have a gimbal, and it allows for movement. It will track you, and the gimbal will follow you. And this is something that you cannot do with the Action 4. The Action 4 is a static camera, and there is no tracking to do, and everything is in focus. So this illustrates perfectly how different these two cameras are and how different market they're aiming to. The Action 4 is a 1/1/3 inch sensor, whereas the Pocket 3 is a 1-inch sensor. And this is a big, massive difference that is gonna give you very different image quality. Now, the Action 4 is an action camera. It has to record a lot, and it has to do digital stabilization. So the smaller the sensor, the less it has to compute. The Pocket 3, on the other hand, doesn't have to do that much computing so fast. So it can give you a much larger sensor. And with that larger 1-inch sensor, you get much pleasant images, you get shallow at depth of field, you actually get blurred background. And one aspect that highlights this very clearly is the lenses and the field of view, because the Action 4 will give you an incredible 155-degree field of view, which is around 11mm ultra wide, which is insane, and the image quality is fantastic, but there is a fair amount of lens distortion in order to capture so much in front of it. The Pocket 3 on the other hand doesn't have to worry about this ultra wide field of view because it's intended to a very different user. The standard lens is 20mm and you can go as wide as 16mm if you get the wide lens on the Creatives Combo. That's a very different field of view than 11mm, and also the image quality is gonna be very different because an action camera is designed to capture everything in focus in front of it. Because you might be filming an activity or a sports that you get one take and you cannot do it again. That's just the nature of the beast. Whereas the Pocket 3 is designed for a more creative and traditional content creator and filmmaker, where you can repeat a shot time and time again until you get it right. If you do real estate, vlogging, traditional filming, the Pocket 3 is the way to go. Not only is it gonna give you better images, but you're gonna have a lot more functionality, and you genuinely get shallower depth of field with that 1-inch sensor, which is something that you're not gonna get with the Action 4. But again, the Action 4 will give you everything pristine clear with a massive wide-angle lens, and this is something that you really need to drill in your head, that either one of these cameras are great for the intended use. When it comes to stabilization, both these cameras are on point. They are very good, very reliable. You're basically gonna have very solid and stable footage. Now, the way they go about it is very different. The Action 4 is digital stabilization, so it relies on high contrast and brightness levels in order to know where is the horizon and keep everything stable. So the moment light starts to drop, you're gonna notice that stabilization starts to suffer, and even the image starts to suffer because the camera is trying to do something that it cannot handle. It cannot do, the sensor is not fast enough. That's something that you don't have to worry on the Pocket 3 because the stabilization is mechanical. Daytime with plenty of light, both these cameras will give you fantastic stabilization, but if you're gonna film in low light situations at night, indoors, maybe the Pocket 3 is the better option. The Pocket 3 has a much larger sensor at 1 inch, and that means a lot more light comes in. The stabilization is mechanical. It doesn't have to be worrying about stabilization. You can have settings for low light and you can have very different settings for the gimbal, whereas the Action 4, it's all combined. You adjust one aspect of the image, it's gonna have an impact on the other one. You could always turn off stabilization and record the gyro data and then stabilize it in post, which is gonna give you very nice and stable footage, but you are adding a step in post-production that you may or may not be able to do, you may or may not know how to do. The Action 4 gives you the ability to have external batteries and you can swap as you need, whereas the Pocket 3 relies on internal batteries, and once they run out, that's it. You need to stop and wait for recharging. An Action 4 is an action camera, so you're not gonna be theoretically having time to be recharging batteries and having power banks, so they give you swappable batteries, so when you run out of one, you put another one and off you go, and you can have as many as you need. The Pocket 3 is designed with a different user in mind, someone that is gonna have a bit more time, so you can plug a USB power bank and recharge as you use the camera. Again, there is not one system that is better than the other. They serve well the intended purpose that they designed for. Both connect to the Mimo app, but the Action 4 is very limited because it's not really designed to be used with the Mimo app. Yes, you can use it with the Mimo app and you can have certain adjustments, but you get a lot more adjustments and range of settings with the Pocket 3, which on an action camera, you don't have the time. You maybe don't even want to do that. You want to just turn on and off you go. So yes, both connect to the Mimo app, but the integration and what you can do with that app is very different. With the Action 4, it's got really nice magnetic mount, and what you need to do is just unclip it from horizontal and clip it vertically. Now, to do that, you need to have this cage because the camera on its own will not do it. So that's something that you need to invest on. But the quality is really nice and it's very stable, and you get to use the full sensor. Whereas the Pocket 3, it's a very different proposition. You flick the screen and you go into vertical mode and it crops down to 3K. But on the plus side, you don't lose any functionality, it's very quick, you don't need to do any adjustments, and you get to enjoy the full functionality of the gimbal just as if you were filming horizontal. So your footage will be really stable and you're gonna get really nice images with depth of field, which is something that you're not gonna get with Action 4, that everything is gonna be in focus.
When it comes to what creative shots you can achieve with these two cameras, things couldn't be more different, because with the Pocket 2, you have no restrictions whatsoever. You can go up and down, sideways, you can do pretty much whatever you want. With the Action 4, that's not quite the same. You rely on mounting the camera onto a chest mount or a helmet mount, so the look and feel is gonna be very different. And the same applies if you're going to use ND filters. For instance, I am using now an ND64 on the Pocket 3 and it works really nice. The Action 4, on the other hand, is going to be a completely different story because it relies heavily on high contrast and saturation, and using an ND is going to affect that, so that's not going to work really well. And yes, you could use the gyro data and stabilize it in post, but it's relying on you getting the right settings on the camera, and I am finding it really fiddly and difficult. So it all comes down to what look you're going for. I cannot tell you that you should go for the Pocket 3 over the Action 4 because maybe this is the look that you're going for. You want the ultra wide and everything sharp look. Maybe you prefer the Pocket 3, which is a much more stylish and traditional filming look. If you live in a wet or rainy environment, you may prefer the look of the Action 4 because this thing is waterproof, it's weatherproof, I mean, it's built like a tank. But maybe you prefer the look of the Pocket 3, which is much more traditional and you can use ND filters without any problem. If you do a lot of sports, it makes sense to get the Action 4 over the Pocket 3 because even though you can use the Pocket 3 as a sort of an action camera, it's not an action camera, and the Action 4 is tiny and it might give you a lot more flexibility. This is something that only you can decide, and it would be very wrong for me to suggest that you should go for one or the other because your circumstances may probably be very different than mine. But if you're interested on either the Pocket 3 or the Action 4, I'll leave the reviews up here. I think you're gonna find it really interesting. Click on any of them and I'll see you there.